My name is Dr. Eris Thorne, and I am a climatologist who no longer believes in climate change. Not in the way the public understands it anyway. What's happening isn't a gradual warming or a shift in weather patterns. It's a violation, a systematic, intelligent unmaking of the very laws of physics that govern our atmosphere, and it's learning. It started subtly, with reports that were filed away as curiosities. The first one I saw was from a small town in Nebraska. A farmer, old and reliable, reported that it had rained for exactly 47 minutes. Not water, but a fine, warm ash that smelled faintly of cinnamon and ozone. When it stopped, the ash vanished, leaving no residue, as if it had never been. The Weather Service dismissed it as industrial pollution carried on a freak wind. Then came the still storms over the Great Lakes. A commercial pilot reported a thundercloud of perfect geometric symmetry, a rotating cube of black vapor, silent and without lightning, that hung motionless for 6 hours before dissipating. Satellite imagery showed nothing. His co-pilot corroborated the story. They were both grounded for psychological evaluation. The event that broke the scientific community's polite skepticism, and my own, happened in the Arizona desert. For 3 days, the temperature in a 50-square-mile area held at a constant 72.4 degrees Fahrenheit, day and night. No fluctuation, not a tenth of a degree. Instruments sent into the zone registered the airs completely still. No wind, not even molecular motion. It was a pocket of absolute thermodynamic equilibrium, a perfect, impossible stasis in a universe that thrives on chaos. A team from MIT that went in to investigate never came out. The official report cited a sudden, localized sandstorm. The unofficial chatter spoke of their vehicles found intact, engines cold, filled with a fine red dust that wasn't sand. That's when I was quietly recruited by a shadowy, cross-governmental initiative called the Atmospheric Anomaly Response Group, AARG. My first briefing was in a sterile, windowless room in Washington, D.C. A grim-faced general played a video for me. It was from a weather balloon that had been sent into a still zone over the North Atlantic. The footage was a mostly gray static. Then, for 3 frames, the camera caught something. It wasn't a cloud formation. It was a structure. Vast, intricate, and clearly artificial, made of what looked like woven cloud and solidified lightning. It had the terrifying, non-Euclidean geometry of a snowflake, designed by a mad god. And then it was gone. The balloon's sensors spiked with impossible data before it was shredded by winds that shouldn't have existed. "This isn't weather, Doctor," the general said, his voice flat. "This is a presence. And it's terraforming our planet into something we don't recognize." My first field assignment was in the Pacific Northwest, where a new kind of forest was growing. It had sprouted overnight in what was once a clear-cut logging area. The trees were a deep, iridescent black, their leaves a shimmering silver. They grew in perfect fractal spirals, and they were silent. No birds nested in them. No insects crawled on their bark. The air around them was cold and carried a high-pitched harmonic hum that made your teeth ache. We set up a perimeter. Our directive was to take samples and withdraw. I was with a unit of soldiers who looked as nervous as I felt. As we approached the edge of the Black Forest, our equipment began to fail. Radios spat static. Digital screens showed cascading errors. The air grew colder. The harmonic hum intensified, resolving into something that almost sounded like language. That's when we saw the first walker. It emerged from between the perfect, spiraling trunks. It had been a grizzly bear. Its form was still recognizable, but it was reconfigured. Its fur was now the same iridescent black as the trees, and crystalline structures like quartz grew from its spine and shoulders. Its eyes were solid, featureless orbs of the same material. It moved with a slow, deliberate grace, ignoring us completely. It walked to the center of a clearing, lifted its head, and stood perfectly still. As we watched, a fine silver moss began to creep up its legs, anchoring it to the ground. It was becoming part of the forest. It was being curated. We retreated in a controlled panic. As we broke the tree line, the normal sounds of the forest, birds, wind, the rustle of animals, rushed back in, a shocking wave of noise after the profound silence. We had brought a single small branch from the black tree. By the time we reached our vehicles, it had dissolved into a pool of black, odorless liquid. Back at the mobile command center, the data was even more disturbing. The area of the Black Forest was expanding at a rate of exactly 10 meters per hour in a perfect circle. Satellite thermal imaging showed the forest had a constant internal temperature of 4 degrees Celsius, and the harmonic hum was being broadcast on a frequency that was slowly, inexorably, overriding all other radio traffic in a 200-mile radius. That night, I couldn't sleep. I reviewed the footage from my helmet cam. I saw the bear, the terrifying process of its assimilation. But I saw something else too. In the background, just for a second, the air itself seemed to shimmer and coalesce into a shape. A tall, slender form, made of shifting weather patterns, with a single, swirling vortex where a face should be. It was watching us. It was observing its handiwork. The general called me the next morning. His voice was tight. "It's happening in Texas now." A town of 3,000 people. The weather report says it's a dense fog advisory. Our sensors say something else. "What do they say?" I asked, my mouth dry. "They say the town is no longer there," he replied. "It's been replaced by a perfect, mirror-flat plain of white stone. And it's growing. We are not dealing with a change in climate. We are dealing with an intelligence that treats our ecosystem as a canvas and our laws of physics as suggestions. It is remaking the world, and it is using our own weather as its brush. The strange reports are its signature, and I fear we are not the artists of this new world. We are merely the paint."
The Texas event, officially designated Anomaly 7, was a watershed moment. The town of Dry Springs didn't just vanish, it was replaced. Satellite imagery showed the transformation happened in the span of a single cloudless night. One moment, there was a grid of streets, houses, a school, a water tower. The next, there was a 5-mile-wide circle of seamless alabaster white stone, so perfectly smooth it reflected the stars with the clarity of a still lake. The transition wasn't jagged or chaotic. It was a razor-sharp, mathematically perfect boundary where a picket fence ended and the infinite, featureless plain began. We flew in on a Chinook helicopter, the thrumming of its rotors a jarringly human sound in the profound silence that enveloped the site. The air above the plane was unnervingly still, devoid of even the faintest breeze. As we descended, I saw the perimeter. It wasn't just a line on the ground. It was a wall of shimmering, distorted air, like heat haze on a summer road, but cold. A soldier tossed a flare towards it. The moment it crossed the threshold, it didn't extinguish. It unraveled, its light and matter dissolving into constituent particles that flowed like liquid silk into the white stone, adding a few microscopic millimeters to its expanse. 0-point energy field, our chief physicist, Dr. Shimura, whispered over the comms, her voice trembling. It's not just replacing matter. It's rewriting local physics, creating a zone of perfect, stable uniformity. We landed a cautious half-mile from the edge. Stepping onto the white stone was like stepping onto another planet. The surface was slightly warm, and it emitted a low, subaudible hum that vibrated in the marrow of my bones. There were no features, no scratches, no seams. It was absolute nullity given form. Our mission was to deploy sensor probes. The first one, a 6-wheeled rover, was sent rolling towards the center. For the first 100 meters, its telemetry was normal. Then, the readings began to simplify. Complex data streams, radiation counts, magnetic field fluctuations, atomic decay rates, all began to trend towards zero or towards a single, universal constant. It was as if the very concept of variables was being edited out of reality. At the 500-meter mark, the video feed began to degrade, not into static but into a perfect, unwavering gray. The rover's own systems reported no errors, but they were sending back a single, repeated data packet, a string of prime numbers. Then the signal ceased, not with a crackle or a final burst of data, but with a soft, digital sigh. On our scopes, the rover's icon didn't vanish. It turned the same uniform white as the plane on our screens and remained there, a permanent static fixture. That's when we saw the first figure. It emerged from the seamless stone near the last known position of the rover. It was humanoid, but forged from the same alabaster material as the plane. Its features were smooth, generic, like a mannequin. It had no eyes, no mouth, just the suggestion of a face. It moved with a fluid, effortless grace, walking a straight line as if on an invisible track. It paid no attention to us. It walked to the edge of the plane, stopped at the precise boundary, and stood facing out towards our world. Then a second figure emerged, and a third. Within minutes, a line of these silent, polished sentinels had formed along the entire circumference of Anomaly 7, all standing at rigid attention, facing outwards. They weren't aggressive. They were observational. A perimeter guard for a finished work. "We need to pull back," the squad leader, Sergeant Miller, said, his voice tight. "Now." As we lifted off, I looked down at the expanding white disk and the ring of silent watchers. The intelligence wasn't just terraforming the landscape. It was creating an architecture. It was building something. And the people of Dry Springs, they weren't dead. They, like the bear and the rover, had been assimilated, incorporated into the new design. Their complexity had been reduced to a single, perfect, uniform constant. The next anomaly hit closer to home, literally. It began over the Midwest, a rain that fell upwards. I watched on live news feeds as droplets of water rose from puddles, from lakes, from the Mississippi River itself, ascending into the sky in shimmering inverted waterfalls. They gathered into a single, massive, swirling lens of water that hung in the upper atmosphere, refracting the sun into a perpetual, sickly rainbow. The lens was growing, siphoning millions of gallons from the continent's heartland. The ARG theory was chilling. The intelligence wasn't just changing the weather, it was harvesting it. It was collecting fundamental components, water, air, thermal energy, and repurposing them. The still zones were storage depots. The black forests were biological processors. The white plains were foundations. My breaking point came 2 nights ago. I was in a temporary command post in Colorado, monitoring the upward rain when a new signal was detected. It wasn't on any radio frequency. It was a pattern embedded in the very humidity of the air, a message transmitted through the weather itself. Our linguists and code breakers were stumped, but I'd been staring at the data for so long, my mind started seeing patterns in the chaos. It was a map, a schematic, not of the Earth as it is, but of the Earth as it is being remade. The still zones, the black forests, the white plains, they were all nodes in a vast, planet-spanning circuit. And the circuit was almost complete. The final piece of the schematic was projected to be constructed right here where I am now, not in a remote desert or a forgotten forest, but in a major metropolitan area. The intelligence was done with its tests. It was ready for its masterpiece. The general's voice was hollow when he gave the order over a secure line. Dr. Thorne, you are to observe and document. There will be no evacuation. The panic would be counterproductive. We need to understand the process. He was sacrificing a city to satisfy his curiosity, to gather data. I sit here now in a high-rise overlooking a city of 8 million people who are going about their Friday night completely unaware. The air is growing still. The stars are beginning to vanish, not behind clouds, but as if someone is turning down a dimmer switch on the universe itself. A harmonic hum is starting to rise from the very concrete beneath my feet. I am Dr. Aris Thorne, a climatologist. I understand the process now. We are not the painters. We are not even the paint. We are the canvas. And the artist is finally ready to begin its final terrible stroke.